Hello, it's Tuesday, January 20th, 2026, and this is the meeting of the Groton Board of Education at 6:02 p.m. And I am calling the meeting to order. In attendance, it's a virtual meeting or remote meeting, I guess we call them. In attendance is for board members, Sean Corcoran, Mike Whitney, Jen White, Jay Whiteloff, Ian Thomas, and myself, Adrian Johnson. And we may have a couple of board members coming in a little later in the meeting. We also have our superintendent, Susan Austin. I see Clint Kennedy's there. I don't know if he's going to be participating tonight, but
He is. He has a place on this with the CIPs, he and Sam.
You
all
can
right.
blame me for any slowness in the slides, and I will be speaking during CIP.
All right. Sounds good. We also have Rita Parsiak. Is that all right. I think that's the first time I said it out loud. And Sam Kilpatrick. So it's call order. Next item on the agenda is a budget work session. We are going to make a little bit of a change just because some people that we need to have time later in the night, but not right now, to speak about health insurance. So we are going to start with town obligations, and then we'll come to health insurance at the end after we do CIPs. I guess Rita, is that you?
Yeah, I think we talked in the meeting last week about just a little more detail on the obligations in the 500s. So I believe Clint is bringing that up on the screen. And it really had to do with the liability insurance that went up 17%. That's one of the town obligations that the insurance for the schools has been going up 10%, or we've been taking on an additional 10% of the properties insurance for the schools due to the size and the newness, if that makes sense. And that's on line 155.
Yes, it would be on line, is that
Page 2-5.
31 also on the first page?
Yeah, I mean, the first page is the summary of all of the 500s, I believe, or
Oh yeah, all right. Yeah, so 155 liability insurance. Now, I was going to ask, so we have 10%, we're paying 10% more just because it's kind of a transferred from town operations budget to our budget this year. So the actual increase is 7%. Is that correct?
yes. And I'm not 100% sure on the number because I have to make sure that that's the exact amount but that's the projection that's in there for now.
All right.
That's under 522, I believe, right?
Yes, it's on line
Liability
155.
insurance.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. And now I was just going to ask, so we are now paying, is it 70% of the liability coverage for the properties? Is that correct? Or is it 80% now?
That I have to check into because this proposal went into effect a couple years ago. So I'm not sure what we were paying, 50%. I have to check that, Adrian.
All right. Yeah, I'd be interested in knowing where we started a couple of years ago, if it was a 50-50 split or whatever the split was between the town, because I think it's important for any taxpayers to know that this actually doesn't affect the town finances at all when we just transfer from one category to another, which effectively is what's happening here with at least some of this money. It's money that we are already spending. It's just going from the category of the town operations to the category of education.
Similar to when we took on the nurses.
Yeah. All right.
Right, but it does affect, I mean, in the bottom line, it does affect the MBR.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's true.
it affects our budget. It doesn't
Correct.
affect that 10% doesn't affect the taxpayer at all. It's just
It's the transfer and how it affects our budget. You're right.
But it certainly commits the town to a higher MBR by transferring.
It could, yes.
Just like moving money into the nurses. hopefully we won't be worried about that this year. So,
we got them in our budget for sure.
Yeah. Ian, I see you have a question.
Oh yeah, thank you. I just wanted to also add on to that point. Well, yeah, this transfer does not impact the overall tax burden to the taxpayer. It does have impacts on the Board of Ed budget, as well as like the MBR going up, but also this diminishes our ability to put money towards students because we're paying for this insurance. So it's an extra burden on the Board of Ed in order to allocate the funds. It basically takes funds away from student-focused spending and puts it towards infrastructure spending.
Yeah, or it just makes our increase look a little bit bigger than it is. Our 7.7% increase look, it's not that much of a percentage, the 10% of the property insurance, but we could figure that out, but like 0.1 or 0.2% or whatever it is. But it does make that it's not effectively 7.7%. It's a little less than that.
But I'd be in support of getting that historical analysis so we can get a track on it to look at how it's been over the past 10 years or so. And is there a progression here? And what is the end game with this? What's the goal?
Yeah, that would be important to know. I would be curious to know how that got, how the change happened. Because I think that was before I was on the board. Was that agreed with the board or something like that? Or is that just something we were told that was happening?
I believe that because of our Groton 2020 plan and our new buildings, that the liability insurance went up because of the cost of the buildings. We were told by the town manager that would be our responsibility. The increase.
Yeah.
Due to the larger buildings.
All right. Mike, you have a question?
Yes, thanks. I kind of raised my issues with this last meeting, but my question about that is did the town council ever vote on this? Because maybe that's something they would like to look at, because it does, as you say, it constrains them with the MBR regards in one way, and our concern is that it's money not spent directly on student education. And I'll just say, in one sense, the liability is they're putting back the extra cost of the buildings, the school buildings, to the Board of Ed. But then on the other sense, the town gets the benefits in terms of health insurance of a lower rate on the town side because of everyone in the Board of Ed. So like we're not necessarily getting penalized per se, but we're absorbing the impacts when they're getting the benefits, in both regards.
Yeah. So one question I have with the process a little bit, and maybe Susan, you can answer this, but when there are outstanding questions like this one, and the board's expecting, and the last couple of years, I've only been on the board for a little over 2 years, but the last couple of years we've had like FAQ, where there'd be the question would be, underscored and one of the staff members would come up with a response to that. Are we doing that this year?
Yes, I can resurrect it. I mean, this would be one we could add to the FAQs. I don't know if we answered it last year or not. I'd have to check, but it's a kind of live document in Google, and I can just have Erica, because I meant to do that anyway, especially since we have a couple new members, so that they can see past history.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, but as far as this year, as questions come up in the meeting like this one, and I know there's been questions in the past couple of meetings where we don't have the answers right away, they just need to be looked into, and separately just board member questions. Is that something that we're going to be doing, just kind of resurrecting that system?
I mean, I think we should. We've got a good start to it, and we've got a lot of questions already answered, but it would be a good way to track it.
Yeah.
So right. I have asked Erica to get it out, and we'll look at it together this week and send it out as is, and try to see the past. We've just started this process, so I'm glad you brought it to my attention.
All right, great. Well, thank you.
Yep.
Mike, did you have anything else, or are you all set? Oh, all right. Sorry, we let you get 2 sentences in there, Rita, and now we'll let you continue. So,
No, I don't have anything else to say really, because I do have to look into, it's a good question about, where did we start with the percentage and where are we ending next year? So I definitely have to get that answered.
all right.
And I think Rita done a nice job describing what drives the 500s from the last budget. And we certainly see over, close to $6 million in the past for student transportation, regular and special ed. We see our partnership with Learn and special education tuition at over $1 million. Curtin Motor Livery, which is really for specialized transportation, $1 million. New London Public Schools, we have the tuitions for our out of district placements and our inter district magnets. And we see New London is over $500,000. We have other Waterford Country Day and other specialized programs like sharp training. And even the New London Adult Ed, which is really in partnership with Groton, so that people can get their GEDs and get EL tutoring and lots of other things that come out in the brochure. So with that partnership. So those are really the main drivers, and also that liability insurance, right?
Yeah.
Did I catch them all, Rita, or do you see anything else there?
Yeah, I just wanted to note that with the adult ed, that is a grant that goes to the town. So that's mandated,
And it must be a source of revenue. We're
Yes.
really, we need to usually John Burt collaborates with us on what he sees as the revenue estimation, and we kind of give him what we think are the estimated revenue sources so that we come together on that and have a handle, and that just really offsets the taxpayer burden. It helps to pay with all those grants like Medicaid and things like that, our budget, but it actually is a revenue source for the town to offset the budget for the taxpayer.
Yeah. So the $207,000 is most of that comes back in a grant from the state. So as I remember, the last couple of years, it's been the lion's share of the money just comes right back to the town. So it's money that we're spending, but it's not money the taxpayer is spending. It's just kind of it's funneling through our budget, into the town's budget, out of our budget. So.
That's right.
Right. That
All right.
exactly it. That's about all that I have for the 500s.
All right. Yeah. So in magnet tuition, did you guys? I apologize. I was not in last Thursday's meeting. Did you go over that? The projected increase in magnet tuition?
I believe that's enrollment in the has increased in the high school magnet.
Sorry, what number is it on the document?
172.
172. Yep. We did talk about it, yes. Let me just bring up my notes here.
Rita, this is Lori. I was just jumping in. I think when we discussed it at the last meeting, Rita and Susan, I think this was an area we were going to take another look. We thought there might be a little bit of savings there.
That's right. We did go over a potential savings. And I do have a document that I can actually share. I spoke about it as we kind of went through what some of those cost savings, but in our first blush going through it, we looked at about a potential $685,000 cost avoidance to start with trimming down the budget. And there was, think the reduction was in VOAG because we no longer have to support that, the state does. And there was a reduction in tuition for state placement too, of about $150,000. So.
But the magnet tuition, my notes state that it's Marine Science and Friendship School. The enrollment increased.
That's true.
So we can take another look at it, but I know it's gone up
All right.
because of enrollment.
And I believe
Right.
the Marine Science School too. And now there's a full
Yeah.
pathway from early childhood, which we've talked about, through high school.
Yeah. All right. All right. And then just since we're touching base on that, I'm just going to mention that we still, if students go to the marine science, we still cover the board covers after school activities. So if students go to marine science, I don't think marine science doesn't have very many sports, so they can come back to Fitch and participate in all our sports teams or drama or things like that. So
Yeah, for Groton residents, we absolutely
yeah. If they would otherwise be at Fitch,
Yep.
they
And that's for everything, including robotics and
yeah.
And sports. And
So we still have some fees with those students, in addition to having to give up some money out of our budget for the students that go to marine science. So, all right. Is there anything else that you want to cover in this document?
No.
I mean,
Not at
I don't
this
know if you
time.
want me to just roll through some of my suggestions. So I talked about the tuitions, and that came out a total of about 300,000 of potential savings, but we can go back over that and just check on that.
Which line are you talking about?
So that was with 561 for special ed VOAG reduction, because we no longer have to pay for the VOAG. We have to still pay for the special ed part of it.
All right.
And 563, which is tuition for state placements. And it's projected more at 250 than 400K. So that's a potential savings of 150. And line number 566, we think we'll review it, but we think we can save about 50,000. So totaling about 300,000 just in the tuition.
All right. All right, great. Well, so you're re-looking at these numbers, and then we'll see them when
we're going to re-look at them, and we're going to, as we go through this process, certainly we're going to take suggestions from the board, and we're going to keep very close track of it.
All right.
So that we're all on board and we all know what's going on very carefully. So we're committed to doing that in a smoother way this year.
All right.
But this document's not changing. This
is my superintendent's budget. But by the time we've all worked together, it's going to look even better, and it's going to be called the board's budget before we bring it out to anybody.
All right.
So we're not going to move the numbers within this, but we'll keep track of it so that when we get to the board's budget, we have the correct numbers for the board.
All right.
That makes sense. Yeah.
All right. So I see Jay Whiteloff is with us. I'm not sure what time Jay joined the meeting, but a little while ago. Ian, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of circle back to the superintendent's comment there. Just want to check in on where we are with the timeline. Right now, we're just doing a cursory look at the superintendent's proposed budget, but this is not the actual superintendent's proposed budget. The numbers are still in flux.
No.
Is that correct?
No,
No.
this is the budget, but as we're going through it, we're going to be looking for potential cost savings and ways to reduce it so that when it becomes the board's budget, you'll have a budget that you feel really good about.
So how are we doing on the book? Is the book?
Well, you're going to get the superintendent's budget book, and just what you see in front of you, the object codes will be the same. And you're going to see them filter into function codes so that we'll be able to then go through it. And I'll have the elementary principals here and special education to kind of review their budgets. Then we'll have secondary, so we'll continue to go through the timeline, but in a different way through the function. So now that you have a handle on what the object codes look like, you'll see them in their kind of departments and areas.
Understood.
So yeah.
Pivoting. So the pivot, when we pivot, once we get that book, the end of this week, if I understand correctly,
right.
next week we begin the process of making it the board's budget, whereas like that's probably the time that we want to open up that tracker document and start, talking about what numbers are going to move that we may want to take a look at and vote on eventually at the end.
Well, Rita and I are going to talk about how to keep the tracker tracking correctly. So we'll look at that and we'll bring that to you. But actually next week is the 26th and it's a regular board meeting. So there is not a budget meeting until February 2nd, which begins the preschool, elementary, and special education.
All right. Well, I just want to voice my displeasure with the idea that we're going to lose a whole week of budget deliberations when it could be like that could start the process. We already have a short month in February, and now the whole goal with the procedure committee we had a couple of years ago was to try to lengthen the time that the board had with the budget so that we didn't feel so compressed towards the end. And again, it feels like we're losing time. We're getting back into February again, when the goal of that committee was to get to a point where by mid-January or so, we're doing the actual deliberations and we're out of presentation mode. So I'm just a little frustrated that we're here again. Thank you.
Yeah, Rita, some of this predates you. I do want to say that we really appreciate you. And I think with a lot of the people, certainly all of the board and a lot of the people that are paying attention, we have much more confidence. Well, I shouldn't speak for other board members. I have much more confidence that that things are pretty tight in this budget. So I do appreciate that. But a little bit to Ian's point, if we can, so I realize we'll be getting a superintendent's budget, but there's already going to be changes. So if when that budget comes out, we can have a tracker, talking about some of the superintendent, I guess we're still in where superintendent recommended changes at this point. If you've got ways, we can tighten up like, tuition and, the special, well, actually we didn't talk about special ed, but like tuition and things like all those line items. If there's some way that we can kind of track that when we get the budget. So maybe board members can take their budget book and mark it up and say, all right, well, this has already kind of been adjusted. And then at the end, I think we will have to, if the superintendent's budget is going to come out with these numbers in it, we would have to, we're going to have to vote, at least the way we've done it in previous years, is vote on the line items that get changed. So does that sound reasonable?
I'm going to comment on how I'm used to doing budgets. Mid-January is really early to get a budget book out for superintendent, I feel, but that's just been my past practice and my experience, okay? And I thought getting the budget book to you Friday and having you have a whole week to look at it, because it is intense, and come up with the questions that makes it the board budget book is a good thing, but that, I don't know the history here. So, but I am working hard with my staff to get that budget book as accurate as possible. So that is taking longer. I'm going to be honest. It's longer than I expected because the functions are so granular as far as the detail, which I think is great, but yet I overestimated how quickly we could get it done. And like I said, I thought it was a good thing to get the book and then have a week for you guys to look at it instead of just a weekend. But
and the narrative is really important. We want that accurate too. So not only about the programs, but the FTEs and the changes that are made, because we really don't want mistakes. So we've been working on that together and know that we are committed to, really doing the best we can. So when you get it, and then I think Rita's right. I think you need time with it to kind of get yourself acclimated and to be able to ask questions before you deliberate.
And I am used to having a superintendent budget and then tracking the changes that we recommend and that you guys say, yes, that's a good idea. And then creating a board budget, which is, do at I'm not sure, February something. So
Yeah, at the
that's
end
what
of
I'm used
February,
to.
it's
I'm
due.
not used to making changes to a superintendent's budget.
All
I'm-
right, yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
saying because we don't have the superintendent's budget yet. That's
Right,
fine.
right,
All
right, I
I'm
get
saying is that's fine if the superintendent's budget, you know, if we can just start a tracker now, because just today we're saying there's going to be a couple of
Mhm.
changes to the superintendent's budget that the superintendent is recommending or that you are recommending. So I'm just saying if we can start a tracker on that so we can keep track of this stuff, you know, as soon as we know about it.
So there's not going to be any changes to the superintendent budget. We're recommending these changes for the board budget. The superintendent budget is going to stay at the 7.7% increase. And we thought going over the object codes might give perspective before the functions. But, you know, I just
The
thought
object
that would
code
be,
tells you my full budget. It's just that it's laid out differently than a function code.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're saying the same thing. I'm just
Okay.
not
Yeah.
using the terminology of we'll get the superintendent's budget.
Yep.
I
Yep.
think we have a few changes already to the superintendent's budget.
Yes.
Sounds like we're going to. So if we can just start a tracker
Yeah.
so that we will have the superintendent's budget in hand along with a piece of paper that says, and we already suggest these changes to the superintendent's.
Thank you. That's
that way
exactly my
that's-
thinking. And working with the departments, they're the ones closest to it who can make those suggestions, you know. They're
Yeah.
better at it than even I can imagine. So I've talked to Sam, I've talked to Clint, you know, so I think by working with them first, so we know, and then looking and seeing what you all have to say as you go through it, you might see things that I haven't even noticed, or, you know, and we can go from there.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be I'm sure it's going to be a dynamic process, but we're going to
It will. It will.
keep it as uplifting as possible. So
you.
Jen, you had a question, and then Ian.
It wasn't a question. I think it was finally realized that the 7.7 is the superintendent's budget. We do not have a book that's attached to it, but we did have the object codes. So our starting point is the 7.7, and any changes that we're talking about now, once we approve and vote on it, will either become part of the Board of Ed binder that we're going to present to the town. So
Right.
assume what we saw like last week as Susan's starting point. It's not like, unfortunately, like last year and the year before where it was the superintendent's budget making edits. It's still the superintendent's budget. And then we're basically going through the superintendent's budget now, with her and Rita and the rest of the staff already identifying areas where we can lower in some instances, and then we'll still go through it with a tooth comb after we get the book ourselves. So I just wanted to say that. I had my hand raised a while
Thank you,
ago.
Jen.
So, it looks like we all got through it. So I didn't, but I just wanted to share that. That's how I
Appreciate it.
interpreted it. And then that's like, so
Thank you.
we are really starting the process earlier already.
Yeah. All right, Ian.
Yeah, not to belabor the point, but I'll just say that it doesn't feel that different. I mean, okay, I understand we're not making changes on the fly to the superintendent's budget. That's maybe a step in the right direction, but again, we don't have the full budget book. We don't have the full context at this time, so I'm not sure, you know, we're identifying early things, but we don't have the full context to weigh those changes against other ones. So I feel like we're being focused on certain areas without looking at the whole picture. So I feel like there's a detriment there, and that we'd be better served just maybe holding off on these and doing it all in one big swoop. But that's
Well,
Oh,
I didn't want it to be premature. I just wanted to, since
All
we
right,
were
well,
looking at the
I can
500s,
finish
I
my
wanted to
thought.
share.
Thank you. I just was going to finish my thought and say, like, you know, we'll carry on, you know, but I just wanted to register my concerns. Thank you.
Well, we realize you have a lot on your plate this year with the first year, Rita. So again, we appreciate
Yeah, my,
it.
We're trying to get it as accurate as possible, so that's why
I'm sure you've been working slightly more than 35 hours.
just slightly.
Oh, yes, weekends included.
All right. So if there's no other questions on what was attachment 2, I guess we can go on to the CIPs. Is this going to be a Sam thing, or who's going to do the CIP?
This is a Sam and Clint. And what we did was actually the board suggestion, looking at last year's CIPs for the 2026 year. And we actually Joyce asterisked it with the Fitch High School Manufacturing Center, the Fitch High School water heater, and the business office software for Munis. So those were actually those were the ones that passed through the CIP. So we wanted to acknowledge that before we started next year's plan, and showing you what's been in place as well from last year to this year. So I don't know if there's any questions about this sheet, but we are very appreciative of these items for sure. And
Yeah,
we're really looking to start Munis, I think, in the next year. Isn't that right, Rita? Because it's going to take us a couple years to implement it.
Hopefully it's July 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So just to clarify, last year we asked for everything on this page, correct? Or everything?
Yes, this is what we submitted.
5. And what was approved is the ones with asterisks, which
That's
we've
right.
gone ahead and done. And I'll just point out the manufacturing center. That was a big win for our schools. And we don't have the manufacturing center even approved yet, but that money for the manufacturing center goes hand in hand with robotics, since they're using the same space.
Yep.
So that improvement also helped move the robotics team to the high school, which I think is great.
Absolutely.
We needed to replace, and the business office software, obviously, everybody wants to upgrade the software. So
Right. We're all on board.
Yep. And then Mike, you have a question?
Yeah, just 2 things. One, I like that addition. Thank you for doing that. I was wondering if the ones that we're requesting for this year should be shifted over to FYE 2027. That's one thing. And then my broader question is, I know every department submits their CIP requests, often quite numerous, to the town manager, and then the town manager, recommends some for going forward for funding and some for 0, and then the town council can vote things back in or vote not to accept them or reduce it or whatever. But do we have any role in prioritizing our request towards the town manager, or is there any interaction in that way, or do they just pick the ones they think they could fit? So my question is, should we, as part of this, be prioritizing within these requests?
Well, Sam is usually the person who works with John about this. And, there are times that we'll have conversations as well. Sam, did you want to speak to that question? I think I saw him on. Clint, do you see Sam on?
Sorry, I was looking for him. Yes, he's on. He's muted right now.
Oh, can you unmute him?
I can certainly try.
Sam, did you hear the question that Mike raised?
All right, maybe we should just
Yeah.
if you can remember your question, Mike, we'll try to get through the rest of this. And,
I will. My other one is,
yeah.
could someone explain the Fitch High School athletic facilities? I just think it's important to explain it because of the referendum that went through.
I think that goes back to recrowning the field when we didn't know that there was going to be, fields group. So we took it off for this next year. That was before we had voted on the high school facility. So that was just to fix the lawn on the football field because we didn't have any approval yet on the fields. But now that we have phases, we took it off because that won't be necessary.
Oh, so we're going to see another slide here with
So there's another slide for the future.
Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
Oh, and Mitch is online, but not as a panelist yet.
I promoted
Okay.
him.
All right.
Kate, did you promote Sam?
Yes, I did.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can hear you now.
I was trying to unmute. I could.
That's why I said, can you unmute him?
Yeah, Clint got me. So got too many things going on here. So yeah, Mr. Burt and I communicate. And I usually try and give him a priority list of what we'd like to get done.
It does sound like you have some feedback going on.
I got the point, though. It's good. Thank you.
And I know the HVACs, we've done it in different ways. The NEA and CK definitely need, to be changed out. At one point, we were putting down $250,000 a year for like 10 years. But I think even those prices have gone up. So I don't know if it's better to break it down, to look for a construction grant or a bond or something. But those two schools, even though they're newer, they really, we've had that problem where we've had the dehumidification problem where we have to run air conditioning and heat over the summer so we don't have mold. So we keep those healthy buildings. So it's just an expense until we get those redone. Is that right, Sam?
Yes, that's correct. The those two items are with John Burke, and I anticipate he'll be going out to bid on those at some point.
Okay. And then Fitch High School and Barnum also need that work done. Is that right?
We're going to be testing the HVAC system at those schools, and we'll have a better idea after the testing is done.
Perfect. And the other buildings are newer. So
Can we go to the next slide? So we were looking at what we're actually proposing for this year.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Just so it's a little less confusing. I was going to ask, those numbers are the same as, obviously we can see from the 26 ask, and there's certainly been inflation, especially on things like mechanical components. How old are these numbers? I know you were saying, Sam, that that we're going to go out to bid again. But how old are these numbers for all the HVAC upgrade categories, like the top 4 lines? Are they just 2 years old, or are they older than that, these estimates?
No, just updated last year.
just last spring.
All right.
We did add an HVAC testing repair per legislation. That's one of those unfunded mandates. So it costs us at least $200,000 each year to have these tests being done. So we're asking the town to help support that as a CIP. So.
All right. And is that testing going to have to be done on a continuing basis from here on out?
Yep.
And
Forever.
has anyone asked John Burt about that? If the town is going to be supporting that every year?
Well, we're going to have a conversation for sure because we've identified this as a CIP project. So we definitely will have conversations. I think we're doing about 2 schools each year. And we have to have all of them done, within several years, right, Sam? 4 or 5 years.
20% per year, and then starting again all over.
Yeah. So my question is if we don't, if the town doesn't approve the CIP for 200,000, we have to do it either way. So it would have to be in our budget. So maybe this can be a conversation, whether that's something that the town is willing to look at every year and consistently support us on this, because it is an expense that we have to spend on the facilities. So, but Mitch, you have a question?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Do the values for Northeast Academy, Fitch, Charles Barnum, Kilnaski, do those numbers include the cost of testing, or are those just anticipated work that has to be done to the HVAC system?
Northeast and CK are for replacement of those units.
Okay, what about Fitch? And Charles
Fitch High
Barnum?
School is for some additional units in the vintage wing.
Okay, so all those schools have already had the testing done.
No,
Testing was done at Northeast and CK last year. Charles Barnum is this year, and Fitch will be next year.
yes.
Well, there's a possibility.
Point of privilege here. We gotta get Sam's mic under control because it's causing echo throughout the whole meeting. I don't know what's going on there, but it sounds like he's got two devices open. It's very hard to track the conversation with all the echoes.
Sam, when you're done talking, I would suggest just mute and then unmute when you're about to talk.
There was interference on my side. I apologize. I just closed the door.
No, I think it's Sam.
Sam, mute and see if that works.
Well,
I can't unmute. I'm going to have to ask Clint to unmute me, or to mute me.
Now, Mitch, go.
I got you, Sam.
Is it worth having the testing done on the schools that you know need some work in advance so you can get the total picture?
In a way, we've done that. I know that it was prioritized Northeast and CK because of the problems we were having. This year, we decided because of the cost of it, it was so exorbitant to do Fitch with something else, that we decided Mary Morrison and Charles Barnum because of the age, and that they'll, have children in them next year. At least we hope to have children in them. So we're kind of doing that, Mitch, in a sense. We're trying to stagger them so that it's affordable and it's by priority of the buildings and their age.
Okay, thank you.
all right. Are there any other questions?
I think Clint can answer some of the safety, security, and the auditorium phases. We've been trying to fix the auditorium. The sound is much better. The lighting's much better. I don't know if you've noticed. It could use a little beautification with carpets and seats, but they're working now better. So Clint, you want to talk about that?
Happy to jump in. Just to finish the auditorium, in phase one, we did do a full overhaul of sound and lighting, and I'm happy to report that those are fully being used, and we're getting a lot of compliments from staff and parents and so forth as far as that goes. We're not losing students in certain shadows on the stage, and the sound has been, one, much more clear, but two, we have a lot more capacity as far as wireless mics go, feeding into a single system, et cetera. I know some seating was done with that as well. This ask is for phase two. We were not able to put in a new high grade projector and screen. We have done all of the cabling, and we have been reusing current projectors for that. So this ask would be only for the final piece of this, which is the projector upgrade, which are pricey and getting pricier all the time. So this would be screen and projector for that line item. The safety and security line that Susan mentioned is actually two pieces. It is a round 4 for cameras, and it is a round 2 for the high school PA. As you all are most likely aware, you supported and we got past a round 1 for the high school PA. That system is installed and being tested as we speak. But it is the head end. It was a $63,000 item, which was hardware, software, licensing, install, etc. And that is the head end that works with our current wiring, speakers to classrooms in emergency spaces, et cetera, as well as the phone, the VoIP, voice over IP phone system. This phase 2 would allow us to go in and upgrade all wiring to all spaces, as well as put in new speakers, a screen, and panic buttons. Some of the benefits to that are not only signage in each classroom, but a two-way ability for, in emergency cases, to listen to classroom, to have it muted, to have it a teacher be able to speak directly to administrators on the other end, a central office, or whomever dials in and has security to do so within those classrooms. Stonington did this upgrade 2.5 years ago, and it really is the next phase. The head end was really the critical piece in phase 1 because we were dealing with hardware from 1976. So I appreciate and I'm happy that that's gotten updated. Phase 2, again, really is the continuing march to build out all cameras across the district that have been recommended by the Safety and Security Committee, and phase 2 for Fitch High School only of the full public address system. The last piece that really I could speak to here too from an IT perspective is the digital broadcast device. So we push live and pre-recorded material to all 3 cable providers in the town of Groton. We have a head end that is in the Library Media Center at Fitch High School. And Mark Russell and Caitlin Brown have done a fantastic job keeping that afloat. But it is way past warranty, way past repair parts, et cetera, et cetera. So I am very concerned that should that device go down, we do not have a backup system for broadcasting live and pre-recorded to our cable channels. We are obviously not seeing the same traction and usage numbers of those cable channels, but we do know that there is a certain group of our community that counts on the educational programming on that, and we want to continue to provide that.
All right, Mike.
Thanks, and thanks for those explanations, Clint. For
Sure.
the digital broadcast device, I was wondering, are there any opportunities for kind of shared services with the town? I know they have a wonderful studio, and they serve out things to similar channels through the Groton Public Library.
Sure. So
Yeah.
they have a similar device, if you will, and system so that they can go live and pre-recorded from the Groton Public Library. We have that same system within the Groton Public Schools network to be able to do that same thing. So if we wanted to connect to that device that's already at the Groton Public Library, we would have to have a connected, we would have to talk about leasing fiber or installing fiber and having a high-speed connection directly from what we're doing straight to the Groton Public Library.
Thanks. And if this does go forward, it might make sense to kind of talk with them for sure, see their experiences, and if it makes sense, get the same kind of systems.
I do not disagree at all. And Sean Greeley and I speak regularly, and he's been a great asset to Groton Public Schools.
All right. All right, thanks, Clint and Mike. Really quickly, I'm going to just say something here that I meant to say when we first put this up, and people watching may have figured it out, but all of these numbers are in thousands. So like digital broadcast device, it says 55, that's 55,000. So add 3 zeros to everything on this sheet for
Thank you.
for those watching. I know the first year
In
I
the
was
small
on the board,
print.
this was very confusing to me. I'm sure it'll be different next year when we have, or in 2 years when we have Munis, but for right now, just so everyone understands, put a K after everything. Ian, you had a question?
Yeah, more like a statement. I just wanted to kind of build on what Mike was just saying. I think it's a great idea to look at exploration of shared services with the town on whatever we can, and because there once was a time where the Board of Ed would have its regular meetings in the council chambers, and that made things a lot more conducive for public comment and more attendees to be able to be there live. And the reason we were informed that stopped in about 2023, 2024 was due to like some issues of the technology not talking to each other very well. Because we had a series of meetings where there were technological glitches with the sound. Um, and so that's how we ended up going back to doing regular meetings at central office in room 11, which is not very conducive for getting the public there. So, um, yeah, I think it's worth exploring. So I just wanted to voice support for that. And I'd be looking forward to that conversation.
All right, thank you, Ian. Mitch?
So we're looking at a total here of $1.7 million about.
No, 16,889,000.
Okay, that's 10 times what I thought, till Adrian made that comment.
Well, I think the HVAC is what's really the pressing, because we're talking about 3,963,000, 5 million, 2 million, and that all adds up. So one of the things we had done, Mitch, in the past was if we started replacing in Northeast Academy and CK a couple units at a time and breaking down the cost, then you're talking about hundreds of thousands instead of millions a year. So that might be something that we could also talk to John Bird about. Would that be a better way to address the CIP issue? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I appreciate the answer. I'm curious about one thing which I missed before, probably because I joined late and I apologize for that, was culinary arts. And so we're looking at $600,000 for that.
That is to refurbish what looks like a 70s kitchen. And I know what those look like because I was there. And to really make it more of a culinary arts or, restaurant grade. Now, we do get a Perkins grant every year, and we have been buying things like sinks and new stoves and things that we need in that space. But we had an architectural plans done a few years ago, and we saw that in order to make that space more viable so that we could have more kids taking the program, it would require kind of a rehaul of the space. So there might be some additional equipment, but I think it's more of a rebuild of the space. That's what's driving the cost. But I did talk to Dan Gajewski and Andre Bumgardner, and they're looking into it legislatively to see if there's anything through state funding that might be able to support us. So I will be in contact with them, and maybe it's something they can come to the board and talk to us about.
Is the objective here to get Fitch High School graduates to be able to go and work at a high-end restaurant? Is that what the purpose of the culinary arts program is?
It's one of our many career pathways, and it certainly is a career pathway a lot of kids will choose even before they go off to college, or they often are working in that industry, and some will choose that as a career. So a lot of people will say, well, they could go to Grasso, and that's true. But this is such a popular endeavor, not only for career pathways, but for life skills. I mean, that was something I remember in high school that we had more of those opportunities too. So I think it's something that's very sought after. And if we can just upgrade that space so that it can be, ready them for careers or life, it would be viable. And certainly if the state, we can find those grants that the state will pay for it, that's even better.
It's always better when somebody else pays.
I agree. So I'm going to follow up tomorrow with our legislators. We did talk about it. Dan and I just talked about it the last week. So.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And I just wanted to mention these HVAC upgrades have been on this sheet as long as I've been on the board. And these units, some of them aren't that old, like the Northeast Academy, I know are not quite as old, but I think that building just has more humidity than we thought, and they're close than I assume anyway, that there's more humidity in that building than the designers realized was going to be there. And they are, those 12 or 13 years old now on a 15-year expected time horizon? Is that correct?
I think those buildings are already 15 years old.
All right, so maybe at this point we are at the expected lifespan of those rooftop units and the HVAC stuff.
I remember that we were told that it doesn't have the dehumidification component in it, so those units didn't really have what would be needed for dehumidification. That's why they've become obsolete like way too soon. But we figured out a plan in the meantime to do the dehumidification. It just costs extra to run heat and air conditioning at the same time, but it has solved the problem for now.
Solve the problem at an additional expense,
right?
Hopefully temporary until we get them replaced, but at an additional annual expense in fuel oil and electricity.
You're right.
All right. Are there any other questions? Comments?
I see Mitch's hand up.
You all set, Mitch?
Yeah, I forgot. Sorry, I meant to put my hand down. I'm good with that. But I do remember when years ago they tore down the school that was at Northeast Academy now.
Yeah.
And we're going back about 30 years. And they said there would never, ever be a school built there again. And now we have one and one of the reasons was because it's on wetlands or it's near wetlands, right?
You got it. You know the history lesson.
Yeah,
absolutely. So that's part of the problem too.
Yep. And 15 years ago, they put the latest and greatest equipment in there, and it's just not what we would need today. So.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. All right. So are we all set on attachment 3, the CIPs? Are there any other questions or comments? I see Mike. All right. You got a question or a comment?
Yeah, just quickly, if all these HVACs don't go through CIP process, is there a chance that they could come back as a referendum for next year's election, or are there still avenues for state funding?
I think that's another thing the legislators can help us with. There were HVAC grants, and I was hoping that they would be coming out this year. Shannon's been trying to stay on top of it, but I will ask Dan and Andre again about that, because it would certainly be better, again, if the state is, expecting us to do this work every year, making sure our HVAC is up to par, if they would help provide for any repairs that you need once you've done that work. So I will ask about that to see if there's any way that we can get help with this funding. And then maybe we see how we could lay it out for the funding that we don't get over time. Does that make sense, Sam?
Yes.
All right, Jen, you have a question or?
Yeah. in the last meeting, I thought we had recommended or asked that an estimate be put in for the vehicles that need to be replaced, whether it's the trucks or the 2 vans. So I don't know what came out of that. And I guess because we're having confusion on the zeros that are on the top, maybe we just put open paren dollars, meaning like US dollar sign in thousands, close paren, rather than the 3 zeros. Maybe that will make it clearer for people.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
I'm not sure that we can do a CIP for vehicles. Sam was under the impression that we couldn't, but we can certainly talk to John about that. Sam, what do you know about replacement of vehicles as far as how they get paid? I know at one point we were doing kind of a vehicle a year for a few years, but then, the budget got tighter and tighter to do that.
I recently told that we can submit them.
You can do what?
Submit them.
Oh, you can submit them. Okay. Well, thanks for asking the question, Jen. I like that answer, Sam.
Yeah, I agree, Jen. That would be a great way to go, because we're so far behind, and this in replacing vehicles, and specifically the plow vehicles. We talked about this last year a little bit, but when we're paying for hours of education, it costs something like $80,000 or $90,000 per hour to keep our schools open. So if we have a plow truck that's down and we have to delay an extra hour more than normal, the cost to the actual education is something like $90,000 in of what we're paying for. 180 days a year, $90 million budget. It costs, it's $500,000 a day to educate our children. So these vehicles, when we don't replace them, they have a real cost to education, and education is less effective, at least in my own opinion, when kids are only in school for part of a day versus a full day, because it kind of throws a lot of things off kilter in missing educational hours. And those educational hours, when we have shortened days, aren't made up at the end of the year. So there is a real cost to not replacing vehicles, especially the plow trucks, which are old. So, all right. Any other questions or comments on the CIPs? All right. Let's move on to health insurance. I see I don't know if Lori's going to be taking this one or Rita.
Yeah, Lori's going to help us out with this.
Yep, Rita as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So just want to clarify, what's the board's pleasure here? We have some information on the partnership plan, but then we also, I think we're going to comment a little bit. Rita was going to comment a little bit, I think, on the just overall benefit cost and the increase. So what's the board's pleasure? Where do you want to start?
I guess start from where we are now and what we've been doing, which I assume is the sorry, I gotta put my glasses on.
Yeah, so we'll take down the
first
partnership
circle
for the moment.
The first circle. Yeah. I think the other ones, which we've asked, or at least I personally have asked to know what those partnership numbers were when we were looking at. So I really appreciate having this all together. It was really nice when I reviewed and realized, with details that we're in a plan that's saving, saving the district money.
Yeah. I'm happy to go through the partnership plan after we've talked first about the benefit section of the budget, if you'd like.
All right. Yeah. So I guess start wherever you think makes sense.
Okay. So Clint, if you don't mind taking this exhibit down and just putting the object summary back up. And then, Rita, do you want
For the
to
200s, right?
jump in on the conversation? It would be
We
sections.
did go over that last week. what was driving the 200s. Let me find my notes. So
I know a few of you weren't there, so I figure we could
I
just do a
think
quick
the
recap.
increase is like 15%, and that's due to cuts last year, cutting 1.3 million last year out of the health insurance is going to affect this year's increase, and so I think the 15% is based on it's based on the MDG estimate, but it's also high because of the cut last year. That makes
Right.
sense.
We have to restore what was taken from reserve in order to get back to a level funding, correct?
Yes,
And OPEB is in here as well.
correct.
And then Social Security and Medicare looks like it really jumped up as well.
I don't think enough was budgeted in this year's budget. That
Okay.
Social Security and Medicare is based on projected salaries for next year.
Okay.
So I don't think enough was budgeted in this year's budget.
And therefore we see the $451,000 increase so that we're budgeting it.
Correct.
And-
It was all budgeted. I'm sorry, Lori, but it was all budgeted by function, and I have changed that this year to budgeted district wide. Budgeting by function
right.
is so hard to do, in my opinion, and basically it's a district wide expense.
And the
We should
workers'
look
comp
at
and
it in one place.
Right, same with the workers' comp, but same with
Yep.
any benefit for the employees should be in a district-wide function. And I think you created the district-wide function last year, but I think the health insurance, the health insurance wasn't like, was it the health insurance? Or no, the FICA was not in the district-wide, it was in each function.
right. And then I was just going to add the workers' comp and the town pension. I believe you had just put a percentage increase on that because we didn't have the final numbers from the town. Is that correct? Yeah.
Right. I went with 5%. I don't have the numbers, and I just went with a percentage increase on those two.
Okay. I'd be happy to talk a little bit about the state plan, but before we do that, I just wanted to mention we're currently in an RFP process for the health plan with the town. So that process has been underway for several months now. We do anticipate preliminary RFP numbers from plan respondent, from carrier respondents in the next week that we'll be able to share with the board. So there'll be another piece of information or a tool to make sure we understand, what we're receiving in recommendations for plan cost and make sure that they're in line and, explore what the cost would be with other carriers. So that process has been underway for several months. We'll have those results soon to share with the board. It will only include preliminary plan costs. It will not include initially what we call disruption analysis. So that is, if you were to change carrier, there's a process in which they evaluate all of your claim history for a period of time and identify what we call disruption. And that means if any member in the plan would be impacted by either a required change in physician or prescription. And so then once you have the cost, then you do have to evaluate the disruption factor because every carrier will treat prescription tiers a little bit differently, meaning where drugs fall on the tiers, whether they're providers, they're physician providers, hospitals are in network or not. So all of that will be captured. We'll have that later in February. We won't have that in time, obviously, to make any financial decisions, but those are the pieces of information that we'll have available if we were to consider a carrier change for any reason. Though the disruption is some of the factors that we would have to negotiate with the unions. before we would be able to make a plan change. So I just wanted to mention that as soon as we have the cost information, they'll be actively working on the disruption analysis as well. So like I said, we'll have that to share. Any questions before we switch over to talk about the partnership plan information?
Yeah, Mitch.
Would you mind explaining one more time the 24, I think 0.8% for Social Security and Medicare? I know you'd already talked about it twice, but I think I need to hear it another time.
I believe we're under budget in this fiscal year that we're currently in for the Social Security and Medicare. So that's why it's such a high percentage increase.
So what you're saying is we won't have enough money to pay the bill. Is that right?
It's hard to project Medicare and FICA because it's based on actuals, not projections. So I based my Social Security Medicare projections on the salaries that are in the FY27. So salaries are increasing 5%. I based it on that. So I can't say for certain because that stuff is not encumbered. Like Medicare and FICA is not encumbered. So I'm doing my best guesstimate.
Okay. Maybe that's something needs to be addressed next time we have negotiations. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, somebody correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe that this came up last year because we moved things all over the place among was it object codes that they were all in the individual or the function categories, and then we consolidated into one function code. So I think that there was just some confusion last year. So I'm guessing that Rita's just tightened up some of that for this year.
I can take another look at my projection. Social Security and Medicare is a very hard projection, but I can definitely take another look at it and this year to make sure that estimate is as concrete as possible.
Yep. Yeah. All right, Mitch.
Okay, one more question. If it turns out that your estimate, which is an estimate, so I understand it's not concrete, but if it turns out it's too low, I thought the process would allow you to go back and ask the town for more money. Is that right? I mean, after your budget goes through, if you find out you're low.
Are you talking about this year, Mitch?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that. I believe what we would have to do is look at the overall budget and make transfers and stop spending somewhere else if we're over budget. You know, so when I give you the monthly reports on, for this year, we definitely we have to keep an eye on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so Mitch, we have asked the town a couple of years ago. There was a budget issue. We asked the town, I think, and that wasn't received really well at that time. We have a new council. Hopefully, things are going to be much more positive in the future, and we have much clearer books, which we'll have to thank Rita for. But I think in the ideal world, I know in previous years we've done Susan's done freezing site budgets to try to save money in other categories. so that if we under budgeted somewhere, we just have to try to figure it out versus going back to the town. And I think the board has done a great job with working with the administration to do that versus ask the town for money. So yes, I think the system is designed where if we were over budget, we would ask the town for money. But we try to do that I think in practice, we're going to try to do that as a last resort.
That's right. In the 12 years I've been here, I think Dr. G, right before I got here, had to do that because of, I think it was more special education costs that were, we just didn't know about. But we haven't had to do that since then. And I'm on a good track record. I don't want to ever have to do that.
I can definitely see it happening with special ed. So
yeah,
like I said, we just have to, this is the time of year where January, February, we have to really look at the current year budget and see where we're at. And that's why encumbrances are so important. And I am teaching my staff how to audit the encumbrances because they're very important and they're very high for salaries. So, yeah.
and our building administrators and our administrators at central office, we've all gotten tighter with that and really tried to work on that. And I think that makes me feel much more confident. Thank you, Rita, that we really know what needs to be spent this year.
All right. So if there aren't any other questions, are we okay to switch to the other exhibit for the partnership plan?
Yeah, sure. That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Clint. So let me just orient to the documents that are here. So the first page is basically a summary, kind of an overall summary of the anticipated partnership costs. We obviously listed the last 3 years of data and then some assumptions for 26, 27 plan year. So it includes the basically town and board combined costs. When you look at allocation rates and
you hit the mute button, Lori.
Yep, sorry.
Okay.
So the allocation rates and retiree rates, that is basically the rolls up to the projected Anthem expenses. We do have to, you'll see the credit that we receive in prescription rebates and the value of those that is taken off of that cost. And then the anticipated HSA funding, which is obviously added to the cost. And then the next column is basically kind of the net overall healthcare spend. Then you move over to the partnership rate. So there's what's called in the first column here, when you talk about the partnership rate 2.0, HEP medical RX costs. Those are what they call HEP compliant. So those are rates for members who comply with all of the wellness requirements in the plan. And then there's a second set of rates for what they call non-HEP compliant rates. Now, if you go into the partnership plan, you're basically grandfathered for the first 18 months under the HEP rates, which are the lower rates. But after 18 months, if you have members who are not HEP compliant, then you're subject to the non-HEP rates for those individual members who are not compliant. So you're certainly, your costs start to shift and increase after 18 months because certainly historical data would indicate that not everybody's HEP compliant. So you get the benefit of that for the first 18 months. So this just kind of orients to the overall roll up, but I'd like to just advance to a couple of the other slides because it does get into the detail, which is a little bit more information. If you wouldn't mind, Clint, going to the very last slide. This is the slide that is just the Board of Ed only that I'd like to speak to. And for illustration purposes in your packet, it includes this slide, which is the Board of Ed cost only, a slide for town cost only, and then an additional slide with this detail where the board and town are rolled up together. So those are in your materials. But I'll just give some highlights to this document. It basically outlines all of our enrollments. So you'll see active employees in the plan on the left, 414, retirees in the plan, total of 57, in the self-funded plan, and then 94 retirees in what we call a fully insured plan. So we have to clarify for those who aren't familiar, the fully insured plans are for retirees who are 65 and older, Medicare eligible. The retirees in the health plan are typically retirees who are under 65, not Medicare eligible, so they have to remain in a self-funded plan along with the active employees. But what this data tells us is if you look at the total active employee costs compared to the partnership plan, it's a very small increase as far as the impact to active employees and what those costs would be. However, when you factor in the cost to have the retirees included in the partnership plan, there's a significant cost increase to the district, and it would also mean a significant premium increase to the retirees. And so as you kind of combine those two together, they show a combined increase to the HEP compliant rates of 13%. So it would cost the board 13% more in our overall healthcare spend at this point in time to move to the state partnership plan. Couple things I would just like to mention related to the partnership plan. The assumption for 26-27, the numbers that have been used for these illustrations are based on a conversation with the comptroller's office where they've indicated that they anticipate, because they've had some losses, they anticipate double-digit increases for 26-27. July 1st, they haven't published the final rates yet, but they've given us a 15% assumption to use. They said they anticipate it will come somewhere between 12 and 15% increase on their rates for 7/1/26. So that's what's been used for illustration purposes. Prior to that, they weren't projecting double-digit increases. I think the last time we looked at it, I think it ended up landing around 8%, I believe. So I'm certainly happy to take questions, but certainly this kind of ties back to the summary page, which shows if we were to consider this, we would anticipate a sizable increase in our healthcare spend.
All right. Mike?
Yes, I just thank you for putting this together. It's very clear description, and it's nice to see the comparison, and I think it makes sense to do this, if not on an annual basis, like every couple of years or so, because I think it does help kind of justify this part of the budget as we go forward. And that 15%, I did read in the paper, that's what East Lyme, who I think is on the state plan, has as their placeholder as an increase for this year. So thanks.
Yes, that's correct, Mike. I did hear the same thing about Learn.
All right. I've got a couple of questions. The prescription rebates, does that money come back to the district or does that go into the town?
It does come back to the district through the healthcare reserve. So when we talk about the growth of the healthcare reserve fund, the rebates are going directly into the healthcare fund. So even, when we've struggled a little bit some years, but we still saw some incremental increase in the healthcare fund, that's because the RX rebates are going in there. So it does show $1.7 million. About 60% of that number comes to the board. It gets split out and it gets put into the healthcare reserve for the town and the board respectively.
Oh, so the 1.7 million is town and
board combined.
Town and board. But the other numbers, are they town and board combined?
In the illustration on the page, it is just the board. So if you look down towards second line to the bottom, estimated RX rebates, you can see the board's portion of that $1.7 million that was on the first page is anticipated to be 1.1 million of that number.
All right. All right, I see there. So these are so the so at the bottom line in the middle, we're so our estimates. So this is just the board.
Mhm.
We're
Yes.
looking at 14,727,000.
Right,
With the plan that we have now,
right.
it would be expected that if we went with a compliant partnership, which basically that one means that the members have to go for annual physicals and eye exams and things like that.
Yes,
So it actually, there's just more preventive care that's required by the people that are in that program. That's why it's a little cheaper, but you're using more services. But you're saying that would be, so the effective difference is what is that, $250,000 or something, 260. I mean, 2.6 million, I should say, not 2.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes. So right now, our anticipated spend 14,726,000. HEP compliant spend on the partnership plan would be projected at 17,444,000.
Yeah.
So I agree with Mike, his earlier comment. We've been monitoring this, but I do think it's, we continue to monitor it, and we've worked it into our annual renewal process so that we can get the rates on an annual basis instead of every couple.
That's good. Thank you.
Yeah. I think this is great as well, to know, kind of where, why we're doing what we're doing. And I'll also mention that for us to actually change this would require opening up union contracts, or at least making, however that would happen, but like amendment changes or something like that.
That's
So
correct.
in the biggest union, the GEA was just negotiated. And
Yes.
as far as I understand, this didn't really come up in that. And there were some changes in that contract, but as far as I know, there wasn't a push to switch to the state plan, the partnership plan.
That's correct. There was not a request to do that. Yeah. And we'd also have to negotiate under, as I mentioned earlier, we'd have to negotiate any of the disparate impact items. So when we do the disruption analysis, we'd also have to negotiate that as part of the move and have the unions accept basically the disruption. So that's a negotiation point as well.
Yeah. And there'd be some liabilities and that we'd have to pay out existing claims and things like that.
Yeah, the run out claim was anticipated around 3 million, a little over 3 million, $3.2 million that you'd have to have in reserve ready to pay out run out claims with the prior carrier while you're still paying your premiums to the state partnership plan for those first several months.
And there was an expensive insurance, I remember, that you'd have to also include as part of that.
Correct.
Yeah.
We quoted that at one point as, I think, a couple $100,000 in order to have the appropriate stop loss coverage to make sure that we didn't take on any catastrophic risk during that process. And that's something you have to buy. I think it's almost a plan year ahead of time. So this is something that a change would have to be almost predicted a year in advance.
Yeah, so it's a production. The method we're in saves currently it saves the town money. It would be a lot to change it and very hard to switch back. So there
Very
are
hard.
reasons, even if one were a little bit more than the other, and it didn't make financial sense that year. The next year, we couldn't just switch back easily, I guess is what I'm just trying to say here.
That's correct.
Mitch, I apologize for rambling on there, but did you have a question, Mitch?
I did. I'm not sure if I got it answered by listening, but you had mentioned one of the plans that requires you to go and for what I call wellness checks. Would that result in a lower premium for the school district, or would that result in a higher premium for the school district?
So the partnership plan has a requirement that you have to meet all of your wellness visits, and it does result in a lower rate for the member. That is the HEP compliant rate. If you fail to do those items, then the rate increases.
Okay. And that's not negotiated into the existing contract, I take it. Is that correct?
No, we certainly have all the, well, we offer in the current health plan, we offer wellness coverage at zero copay to encourage individuals to get all of their wellness screenings and meet all those requirements, but it's not a mandate like it would be in the state partnership plan.
Okay, so maybe next time for the negotiation purposes, we should make it such that everybody has to get that plan or they have to pay the difference out of their salary. But I don't think that's a discussion for this particular forum.
Yeah, Mitch, just to explain that, those are both. So the state offers the partnership plan, which there's two options of what the state offers, and you can't make any changes to it. The one option is you're going to commit your members to getting all those wellness visits. And the other option is not committing your members to getting all those wellness visits. And it's cheaper if you get the wellness visits. For what we offer, which we're self-insured, so we offer an Anthem plan that just doesn't require it. I don't think Anthem, correct me someone if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's an option for a cheaper plan on what we're doing already with the contracts. We're already somewhere around 15% cheaper than going with that partner with either version of the partnership plan. So we're already saving money because we're self-insured in going with this Anthem and then just paying Anthem to with Anthem's plan, but we're effectively paying Anthem to administer a plan, but we're doing the insurance on it. And then we just have some kind of reinsurance coverage of things, so that we don't go too far out of it. So there's some
a little bit of history being here 12 years is that we've really used it to our advantage in that the town used to tell us that they didn't want to have such a big cap on the excess, and so that we could use that during budget time. So it has been done when we've needed to do that to offset some cost. But we really have to monitor it to make sure our health savings is very healthy and we don't get into a bind where we have to pay back. We always have to redo that. So at one point, you're going to be paying back some of those funds if you've had to offset. Did I say that right, Lori? Or do you have any other words for that? But we were encouraged, I think, through the town.
Are you talking about offsetting costs in the budget?
Yeah, through the health savings.
Yeah, I think they've certainly encouraged us not to let it get too high, but maintain a healthy enough reserve so that, in the more challenging years, it provides a fund for us to go to if costs rise above a level that wasn't anticipated. It gives us that little bit of cushion so that we can cover those claims ourselves without having to go back to the town and ask them for more funding. So that's really what the reserve is designed for.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is really it takes a while to get your head around the insurance thing.
Yeah,
the self-insurance thing. It took me a while. I tried to pay attention to the numbers, and it took me a while to kind of understand the reserve and the corridor, and then the high deductible and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely complex, and we'll have similar schedules for you to take a look at, like I said, when the RFP is done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's very complex, but it's also the lesser expensive option for our board budget and the taxpayer.
Agree.
Okay, thanks.
Clint, you can take that down now. I think we're all set.
Are there any other questions, or is there anything else to cover in this, Lori?
No, we talked about the points associated with it.
All right. Are there any other questions on this, on health insurance? Anybody? No. All right. All right. Well, I believe we have reached the end of our agenda then. So I will, without any objection, or I guess I will take a motion, and Andrea is not here tonight, so I don't know who.
Someone's got to do that for us.
I think we're just going to be here until next Monday when we come to meet. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn? All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Made by
Second.
Mitch, seconded by Mike. Was that Mike I heard? All right. All right. Thank you, everyone. We will see you next Monday, and we're adjourned.
Thank you
Thank-
very much, everybody.